I think the biggest risk, or like one of the biggest flops, is people who their first marketing campaign's their last. They didn't have proof of concept immediately, so they're like, I'm done with this thing.
Somebody like Seth and Autumn, right? She's an author. She's written a bunch of books. Their letter that they wrote was awesome. Got people to call them, trust. They built trust right away through their letter. I think a lot of people wanted to do business with them.
This isn't like a crypto meme coin, you know. This is a hard asset with limited supply in the United States of America, and that's why I love this business. Welcome back to the show, guys. Today's episode, we're going over the risk and reward of land investing. We're going to go through other business models and just compare the pros and cons. But today I got my brother and business partner, Ron Apke, and Darrick Bourgeois here in person on set. Welcome, Darrick.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. This is exciting.
So where do you want to go? Where do we want to start with this? So we're talking about the risk and reward of land investing, and Darrick has such a interesting background with, you know, fitness and all the different businesses. I came from a background from from drop shipping and e-commerce and blogs and all of that, more the e-commerce space. And Ron came from a different background as well. So I think this will be a really good episode just talking about some of the pros and cons of this business model versus other business models.
Yeah. I think it's less the pros and cons and just like, what are you getting yourself into? I think that's what a lot of people want to know, and people try to like eliminate risk when they're getting into a business model, and you're not going to be able to do that. Like, there is going to be risk when you enter a business model, but we always talk about like level 10 opportunities, Dan, with different business models, and I think that's part of what makes land investing such a good opportunity is the lower amount of risk. Darrick, talk a little bit about your background, the different business models you've been in. I'm sure there's been some risk in associated with those, but I talked about those a little bit.
Yeah. So I started off when I was 18 years old. I started a record label, and I had really no idea what I was doing. I knew that I wanted to be in rock and roll on some aspect, but I was like, I'm gonna start a rock and roll business. What is that? It's a record label, and there was just so much outlay from the beginning that I was nowhere near prepared to handle. Right. So you had to record albums, you had to print CDs because I'm old. You had to do marketing, you had to sell the CDs, and then eventually you got the dollars coming back in. There was like probably $50,000 to $60,000 of outlay before you even saw a dollar being made. And then even when the money did start rolling in, it was slow, right? It wasn't like, you didn't recoup money and actually like start being profitable for years. It was years before we started making money. And then my wife and I got into the fitness industry. We owned CrossFit gyms for a long time. That had a little bit more of a direct, like you get some equipment, you get some membership in, like at least right away we were making, like there was income coming in on some aspect. But by no means were we profitable in that business for probably, I think our seventh year was the first year that we actually made the business itself actually was profitable, which is crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure those businesses kind of made you guys more risk tolerant, and then like see like, oh my goodness, like when you got on the land, like I'm making money month 6 or something like that, whatever it is. And I think there's so many like promises online, Dan, too, that like a lot of people don't have a lot of tolerance to risk. There's people overselling things. There's people who are saying first 30 days you're going to do this or that. I think that creates mindsets, especially people who haven't been in business before, of people who are not tolerant to risk at all. Yeah. And I think it really hurts like the potential for a lot of entrepreneurs that might have been good, but they're not successful in 30 days and they're like done or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point that Darrick was talking about. It's like when you're analyzing business models, one thing that's interesting to look at is your launch to income, like launching your business or the idea and actually creating it to when you're going to get your first dollar. But that's not the whole story, because maybe you need to put $1 million into it. Maybe you need to put $10 into it. So you got to balance that, like how much capital is needed, your launch to income, and then launch to profitability.
Yep.
But the cool thing about this business model is your launch to income and launch to profitability is usually in the same exact moment.
Same exact moment.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Wait, say that one more time. Launch.
Your launch to income, your launch to sales.
Okay, so your first deal, you're profitable.
Not income. Yeah. Your first deal, you're usually profitable. So everything, and Darrick's a coach, and coaches a ton of people, and everything's around getting your first deal as fast as possible, because we know that's that light bulb moment where you make money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's that. What do we refer to it as? We refer to it as the proof of concept.
Yeah.
Right? Like we need to get to that proof of concept where in land investing, it's very direct, right? It's buy for, below market value, sell for above market value.
Yeah.
And like once you prove to yourself that exists, then it really just becomes a cash flow, like managing your cash flow, managing like how quickly, So for instance, I spend $6,000 on mailers, right? I make $25,000. It really becomes how quickly can I spend $6,000 again, right? And still remain with cash positive in the bank to get another deal that makes me $25,000. So
Got it.
I was listening to Hormozy talking, and it was kind of reminded me of that. He's like once you start making money, it's like what's gonna break is like you can up your budget, it's your operations that will break. Like, okay, you made $25,000 on $6,000. Like, how do I put $12,000 into marketing? And like it's just you can keep scaling this business up until your operations or something breaks. But scaling up ad spend, everything like that. Darrick, you obviously talk to a lot of new people in this business. Like, do you see mindset hurdles with people who have? I don't think many people come into us, I don't think, with just not great expectations or like unrealistic things. But what do you see from your perspective on people coming in who might be like, okay, I want to do this in the next 7 days?
yeah, I mean, you do see there's like, because here's the thing, I don't know what's actually unreasonable in this business.
True.
Because you've seen such a wide range, right?
Yeah.
Somebody comes in and is like, I want to make $20,000 in the next 90 days. That's completely doable. Like, I see that all the time. I want to make $500,000 this year. That's completely reasonable. We see that all the time in this business. Like, I don't know what maybe if somebody was like, I want to make $10 million in the next 90 days, I'd be like, well, we're going to pump the brakes there. But I mean, for the most part, there's such a way to make this business profitable so quick.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no real like it depends. It's like dollars and cents. Like, how much money do you have to put into marketing? And if you're willing to pour all that into marketing, like, you can get deals faster. If we don't have as much, it's going to take a little bit longer, but you're going to be profitable.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're going to start pouring that money back in, and then you're going to pour that money back in. And as you do more deals, like, your business obviously grows. And it just becomes a factor of how much are you pulling off personally, and how much are you rolling back into your business to make it more profitable.
Yeah.
And like I said, it becomes a cash flow.
So you think their expectations are pretty in line generally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the issue is like you have those first meetings where you're setting goals or whatever. And I think your job as a coach almost, or like helping people, is like holding them accountable to what their goals were. If you set $500,000 this year, like, okay, great. That is possible. People have done that. For day 7, you haven't chosen a market and you haven't done this, like, you hold them accountable. Like, these are the action steps people take to make $500,000. And I agree with you. Like, who are we to tell them what they can or can't do in terms of their initial goals? Yeah, that's an interesting perspective for sure.
And there are risks in this business, and I want to get into that. And you talked a little bit about level 10 opportunities, right? And we can talk about that in a little bit too. But there are risks in land. And I want to dive into that side of the business. Like, what are the true risks? Like, what are you getting into? What should your expectations be? I want to lay out the business and the risk for.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like, let's just start from someone who's first getting into this business. Like, you're paying for, let's assume they paid for some kind of education, whatever it is, but they're paying to learn something. So you have some money out your pocket, and then you're marketing you're spending money on marketing. And I think that's the first thing, Dan. Like, you're putting money into the business, whether it's $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000. Like, there is money being put into this business, and if you don't do the right action steps, you definitely can lose it. Marketing can flop. Like, it does flop. If you don't send marketing again, like, we have a lot.
That's how people fail.
Yes, their first marketing campaign is their
They try
last.
one time and they spend a lot, and then that's their last time.
Yep.
You don't hear people who have sent, just consistent marketing and spent 20 grand on consistent marketing and haven't gotten deals, unless they're completely out, all over the place.
Just doing
just doing whatever they
changing
want.
strategies, everything like that. But I think the biggest risk, or like one of the biggest flops, is people who their first marketing campaign's their last, and they're like, they didn't have proof of concept immediately, so they're like, I'm done with this thing. And I'm not sure how many people you see like that, but I know it's a common thing.
That's why texting's beautiful though too.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, it used to be like direct mail was everything, and people come in with a low budget, and they'd be like, I got $5,000. And Ron and I were doing one-on-one coaching. We're like, all right, let's try to make this work.
Yeah.
Like, the risk there is high. You have $5,000 and that's it just to send mail. It's like, you're
can't touch that
limited.
many people.
You can't touch that many people, and it's just, you're very limited.
Totally.
But yeah, go on, Darrick.
I was gonna say, I don't see a lot of people who come in who do one mailer and are out. Maybe that's happened once. I'm trying to think.
That's because their expectations are probably met on the front end with the sales too, hopefully.
Totally. And I think also, when you're doing the right thing, like, my whole job as a coach is to make sure that we're stacking the deck in their favor, right? Like, I'm going to give them some of those like little golden nuggets that I've learned along the way that aren't necessarily like more widely known, or if we're looking at a specific market, I can be like, all right, this market, we have to do this specifically. So there's obviously a benefit to getting some sort of coaching and stuff. But at the same time, the thing is with my clients is that I don't let them just do one, right? Yeah. By the time their first mailer's in, or by the time we're working through text messaging, we're already on to our second, third one, right? Like, because I've done that. Yeah. I've done 2 years ago when I did my 60,000 mailer test. I was like, I'm just going to send out 60,000 mailers in 4 months. I was like, I'm going to do this. There was a time when I had sent out 3 mailers in a row that I hardly got any response on. There was a time when I was like, man, maybe this stuff isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
But luckily, I already had 3 more mailers that were already in, like, out of my hands, already into the mail house. And sure enough, that next mailer, I get 2 deals.
It's the lead machine.
Back in the game.
You got to constantly have the faucet on. You have those pauses. You start getting in those mindsets. You have a little, 3 drought mailer, and, things get tough out there fast. And that's what it's all like, that's why we say one of the most, we had that, like, the most important things in this business a few weeks ago.
Most importantly, yeah.
And I said your marketing calendar, but you said consistency. But that's why we put so much emphasis on the marketing calendar, because the goal of it is for you to just stay consistent. That's the end result.
Yep. Turn your brain off and get your marketing in, right? Like, especially when it comes to mail, because you have a 3-week lead time a lot of times on mail, or 2.5-week lead time. Like, if I got a mailer in, I know I'm not getting responses for 2.5 weeks. Well, guess what I can do in those 2.5 weeks? Get another mailer in, get 2 more mailers in.
Yep.
And now if I don't get any response on that first mailer, well, I can be like, oh, I didn't get any response, I'm not going to do any more mailers. It doesn't matter. I already have 2 more in.
Yeah.
And guess what happens? Now I get better response. Maybe I'm getting a deal, and all of a sudden you're back in the game.
Yeah. And the risk of coaching really is just your, like you said, you invest in coaching and you come in, and that's the risk of that's just the money out, right? But you got to think of, like, for any business we've gotten in, Ron, or anything that we're doing, we always have coaches and mentors and everything else. So let's talk about kind of the risk reward of, and I don't want to push our course or coaching or anything.
It's about anything,
like that.
any business.
It's just in general. So for example, I want to give an example out, because Ron and I have had a mentor who owns a nutrition company for years. We stopped the mentorship in January because we got a part of this new software group that's very, focused on the software and the land portal and all that stuff. So we stopped it. We're like, pause, let's focus on this for a little bit. And then we're starting it now, and it's multi-$1,000s a month. And we're in multiple consulting, coaching mentorships like that. And we always have been. When I did drop shipping, I had a drop shipping coach. I still talk to them today. I e-commerce coach, all these different things, just because you want to be where they are typically. And it's like, they can show you the faster way there. And I've always been a huge believer in whether it's your neighbor who does something better than you and you want to be them, like mentorship in general, whether it's coaching, online coaching, all that stuff, just mentorship. What do you think about that?
I mean, 100%. We were talking, you mentioned Hermosi earlier. Like, we were one of his early gyms during gym launch back in Seattle. And like, the way that you frame it is that, okay, I'm going to spend $10,000 on this program. Like, I need to see a return. And like, a good coach when they're like, their only job is to show you that when you spend $10,000 with them, they're going to make you $100,000. Yep. And Hermosi's big on that, right? I'm big on that in my coaching program. Like, you're going to spend some money with me, and it's like, I take that very seriously, as far as like, I want to make sure that not only are you getting like back what you put into this coaching program, but like more, right? I want that value to be there in 10x if I could, right? So that's really like how you have to, like, it's such a great thing. And they're coaching for a reason. Like, you don't see Hermosi out there selling his, high ticket coaching programs and not seeing a return. Like, all these people are seeing a return. Otherwise he'd be a fraud, right?
That's why it works.
Yeah. He'd be lambasted online, but no, it works. Yeah. And that's why he's so successful.
I think the 2 biggest things when you talk about getting coaching from someone, it's speed and direction. Like, how fast are you going to get where you want to go? And like, do you have someone who can redirect you? And that's what Joe does so well for us, who owns the nutrition company, is like, we just have these meetings, and like, okay, it just puts us in a really good spot direction wise for next 30 days, where I know what to focus on. And more importantly, I know what not to focus on.
But it saves you money too.
Yeah,
and time.
For sure.
It's like shadowing Darrick.
Time for sure.
Yeah. Like, if I was starting this business and shadowing Darrick, and I didn't know where, I'm trying to learn on YouTube and stuff. I'm just sending out mail and text, and I'm all over the place. How much money and time are you going to spend?
For sure.
A lot. And then you go to Darrick, and he's like, no, this is what you should do. get you structured, get your marketing schedule set up. It's so much money.
Yeah.
And time, same thing.
Yeah.
We'll say.
You're saving all that. And lucky for you, I've made all the mistakes already. So you're coming in and now you don't have to spend the money on all the mistakes because I've already made them.
Got it. Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke. Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com. So let's talk about, I want to get kind of examples here. Like, since this is about risk, let's talk about some best and worst case scenarios. We kind of touched on them, but best and worst case scenarios of what you see in your first, like, let's just say 180 days of what people can expect. Like, what's possible and on both sides, you know, the good side and the rough side.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, we've interviewed so many people on here. Jenna, is that her name? Jenna, I believe it was Jenna. Sorry if I'm wrong. But Jenna, I had on the podcast probably a couple months ago. And yeah, she started land flipping in like December or something, maybe January. And she put in her 2 weeks notice in June, essentially. She did 3 or 4 deals over that time period, was able to quit her job. She's working with her significant other in land flipping. And like, those are the exciting stories that get me up every day, are like these stories of people who are able to like change their life because they committed to it. But she had no like, and I asked her in the podcast, if you guys go back, because she had flopped mailers, which is really cool, or flopped marketing efforts. And she's like, and I asked her in the podcast, I'm like, did you ever have doubts in this? She's like, no, not really. I was just like getting the next one out and seeing how I could improve.
Crazy. Good.
Yeah. Any that come off the top of your head?
On the good side?
Yeah, let's stay on
Success.
the good side. Let's see.
Stay
Stay positive for now.
I mean,
I like that.
I'll take, I mean, for instance, Seth and Autumn. I know you guys had them on a podcast like a couple months ago. They were clients of mine, and in their first mailer, they got 6 deals.
Wow.
Right? Like they got
I didn't
3
hear
from the
that.
mailer and 3 from follow-up
Gotta watch
text
my podcast.
in one county.
Yeah.
First mailer. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was and they signed up for a 6-month coaching. So they had some outlay, right? For 6 months of coaching with me, and then boom. Right. And now they're off killing it. Right. They're doing deals. I love that.
They're
That
good
stuff's-
people
So
too.
they
Oh
did
my
they
gosh,
did
they're such great
mail and
people.
then text follow-up. So
Yep.
3 and 3.
We got 3 and 3 out of one county.
Ooh.
That was a good podcast.
Oh, my.
I don't know if I
I didn't
remember
hear that one.
I remember them saying the success. I didn't remember.
And that was
6
in how
deals.
many days?
I mean, that was our first mailer. That was literally
So like
within
they signed up and they're with you, and then what?
60 days we were getting
6 deals.
in 60 days we were getting deals under contract, and we had I need to go back and look at my Discord. Actually, I think we had 3 across the line completely in the first 90 days sold double closes.
So profit seen.
Yeah, 1 under contract and 2 on market still. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then somebody like Anthony, I just posted the other day in the thing, like
Slaney.
Slaney.
Yeah.
That guy's killing it, right? He's done, I forget how many deals we have under contract right now. 6 deals under contract right now.
What
And we're
separates
in
them?
like 60 days.
I know it's not the topic of this podcast, but what separates those people, these people who are just
Doing
this
that.
kind of success? Because
Yeah.
it's not an outlier. Like, it's not like they just happen to run into deals.
Yeah.
What separates them?
I think it's they lean on their actual like ability that they had before they came into land investing. So somebody like Seth and Autumn, right? I think a big portion of what they did was, she's an author, right? She's written a bunch of books. Their letter that they wrote was awesome, right? And I think that got them in the door with a lot of people. It got people to call them, trust. They built trust right away through their letter. I think a lot of people wanted to do business with them just from that letter. And I mean, that's just leaning on her expertise.
Yeah.
Anthony, same thing. He came in from a wholesaling background, right? So he has this high volume, like he was sending like 10,000 text messages a day. That is a staggering amount of text messages. So he comes from this high volume investing model, and he just basically took that and applied it to this, which is higher ticket, right? Now we're flipping land, and was able to lean on that expertise that he already had. He was already used to doing that. So
Yeah, she owns they own a publishing company, that couple, that
Oh,
husband
okay.
and wife.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's familiar with that. Another one, Darrick, is like like how much, I mean, you're a great example of like you risked a lot coming in this business, not a lot, but as far as like if you committed your first year to 60,000 mailers, like, all right, that's $45,000.
Wow.
And then you also look at, okay, what's the upside? Like, what is the upside of what you've done over the last few years? Talk a little bit about that, because you are an example of just a couple years ago of like what you risk coming into this business. But like people, when they are putting that money initially, they don't think that much about the reward,
Sure.
I think, or that's what makes them quit if they're not thinking about that. But talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that road to actually having the money to do the 60,000 was a road like this, right?
Yep.
So this was, you know, I funded a deal that I shouldn't have funded. I ran out of marketing money, right? And I had 3 deals sitting on the market over the holidays, and I'm like, because I closed on them in November, sat on them through the holidays, didn't sell them till like the first week of February, but they all sold in 1 week basically, which gave me the money to do the 60,000. Right? I made. Let's see. I think I made 58,000 on those 3 deals, and then I was able to pour that back in. And I'm like, all right, we're going 60,000 mailers before my birthday, which was in June.
Yeah.
And so February to June, it took me a month to get things back up and running, right? So it was really not February. It was like March till June to get 60,000 mailers out, and it was just hammering marketing. And like every day, I didn't get mail out till Monday, or on Monday. I'm sorry. Every week I got mail out on Monday. I did nothing until I got my mail out.
Yeah.
So I got really efficient at getting I could basically go from county selection to mail out in 3 hours every Monday morning.
Wow.
Right through. And then, after that, it's just, what did I get? 12 deals out of those 60,000 mailers, 13 deals. Anyway. And then it was just, getting those sold and kind of rolling the money back in. And now I get to take some profit, and things were really good there. So that's just, it's kind of, and now that's just how I roll now, right? I have a certain amount of marketing dollars that I keep in the bank. Anytime I sell a property, I re-up the marketing dollars. I could take whatever's left, and we just keep rolling like that.
Yeah. That also led to sorry, Dan. That also led to you being able to quit your night job and like you being able to spend more time with your family. Like that's the reward that I see and like think about with you. It's like, okay, spending time with your family, you're able to help so many people in this business model. Is there anything else because that's like the backside of it. Like, yeah, you make money. What does that money do for you? Yeah. Okay. You can see your family, everything like that. It just changes your whole life.
Totally. And that's the question I get a lot, especially from my coaching clients, is like, like, oh, why are you coaching and stuff like this? I'm like, because my business isn't that hard to run. Like, I'm just getting mail out and taking phone calls and selling. Like, I'm so used to this point that I'm like, I love the coaching aspect of it. I love being able to help other people. That's like part of like what makes like me who I am. So when you guys offered for me to coach, I was like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds like something I would really love to do. But like, I'm like I said on my podcast last, I'm base hits, right? I'm not really necessarily going after 60, 70, $80,000 deals. I like 20, 30, $40,000 deals all the time.
Yeah.
And like, those are great. And I re-up my marketing budget and I keep that rolling. And it allowed me massive freedom to spend time with my family. Also, I could do it anywhere. Yeah. Which is like, we're going to Disneyland in September. And I'm like, love it. By the way, I'm going to need like a week off, y'all. We're going to Disneyland in September, or Disney World. Never been. Nice, the kids have never been. I'm like, this would be so much fun. So just stuff like that. It's amazing.
And one thing we didn't touch on, I need to touch on this before we wrap this up here soon, is the funding side. We're talking about risk here, and everyone who's not familiar with this business is probably talking about the risk. What are you talking about? You're putting out your own money. Do you want to talk about that? I think we got to get into the deal,
buying land,
deal financing, buying land. How are you buying land? And I think that's what we got to get into.
And I think it's overlooked a lot, the risk in buying land, because like how much you can avoid buying bad land on the front end. Like you don't want to buy bad real estate. You don't want to buy a defected property, everything like that. And that's how we mediate a lot of the risk. Yeah, you can get funding and stuff like that. But let's say you're using your own money. Like how do we avoid a risk when we're buying a property? How do you know what it's going to sell for? Like you got to do due diligence. Like people,
it's predictable though. Yeah. This isn't like a crypto meme coin. This is a hard asset with limited supply in the United States of America, and that's why I love this business. Is because it's easy. You can say comping land's hard, but at the end of the day, it's easy when you talk about like comping land versus trying to figure out what a stock's gonna grow. You know what I mean? Like you have a hard asset. It's not buying a stock and just hoping that CEO is good and it pans out. This is buying a hard asset where you can look at the trends over the last 20 years and see what's going on and pretty much, get within 5 percent of what it's going to be.
The risk is missing due diligence, missing something. Like that is where the real risk comes
Because
in.
this is sight unseen.
Yeah, because land is not volatile as volatile as houses or something like that. Like it just there's too much cash in land versus houses with all the financing, everything like that. Everyone always asks that. Like it's not going to drop 15% overnight, the value of a piece of land. But that being said, if you missed a restriction, you missed an HOA, you missed something on the deed, maybe there's not real access. Like that's when you get a lot of risk, and your land can become worth your $50,000 land that you view it as might be worth $20,000. Yeah. So due diligence is where the real risk comes in, and that's why we don't talk about due diligence that much, but it's definitely an important aspect, especially in certain pieces of land.
When you're talking about specific pieces of land and not this really, it is a part of the business model, but it's missing something like access or missing something with like a deed restriction, or it's completely underwater and you didn't catch it, or there's 5,000 tires of not buildable, all of that stuff. That's where the actual major risk is in this business side. Marketing 5,000 bucks, but you buy $100,000 property, that's if you're using your own money.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the risk with how this business model works, it's not your risk. It's really not. You're supposed to do all your due diligence, do all that. But the way deal financing, deal funding works in this business model is Darrick brings me a deal. I review, do due diligence, ask him about the due diligence on the deal. We get under contract for like a profit split agreement. And then Darrick keeps 75%, 60%, whatever, tiered by 30, 60, 90, however you guys have it. But the risk then goes from, and that's the great thing about when you're newer, it's a little bit more expensive financing, but the risk goes from Darrick, the investor, to me, the manager. And if that doesn't sell, that property is going to be mine. But there's really no risk on you.
Right.
And that's a scary thing for the manager. That's why you got to do your homework on the people that are bringing you the deals. But do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, that's how I think most people get started in this business, right? Is using those land investors, because what it does, especially the land investors in our group, it's a second set of eyes, right? Like, and they're kind of like, they're a little bit more experienced. If they're investing in land, if they're investing in deals that are being brought to them from people in the group, they understand the land business. So they get to go, did you do your due diligence? Let me see the due diligence paper. Let me see, did you check with the county? I need to see all these things. And it's like another set of eyes.
It's like a mentorship.
It's totally like a mentorship.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a huge benefit to people getting involved in this business, is that early on, all you have to do is find the deal. If you find the deal, the money will be there.
100%.
Right? And then if you do your due diligence and you do a good job doing that, and it's such a huge thing early on, right? If I could teach people one thing, it would be how to do due diligence, how to comp, how to do county selection. Like, those are the three big pillars.
And I've talked to people with like $500,000 cash. I'm like, why aren't you buying this yourself? They're new.
Yep.
And they're like, I want the confidence of a deal funder who's experienced to say my deal is good.
Yeah.
Totally. So, and I want to work with them and then assure me that my deal is good, and I'll give it, we'll split the profits.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Is there anything else you want to add to this, Darrick, as far as, I know we talked about like the good side of risk versus reward. I don't know if you have any stories of people who did quit after one mailer or something like that, who lost money, because people lose money in this business. I don't want to sugarcoat it. If you don't have if you don't have the conviction for this business, and you're not actually coming into it to make money and like willing to put in some work, like you can definitely lose money. It's the people those are the people that like half with their toe dipped in the water or something like that, who will end up losing money. Anything else you want to add to that though?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the people that look at this as maybe like a get rich quick thing, or like, I'm going to do this as like, you could absolutely do this as a side hustle, but people who don't take it seriously enough, right? It's a real business. And I think that's what people miss. I think that's the people who do one mailer and think, I don't know, they don't have the entrepreneurial brain, right? You got to have some grittiness to get into business in general, not just this business, any business you want to be in. Like, you're going to take some L's. That's just how it is. But in this business, luckily, the profitability can a lot of times outweigh the majority of those losses.
And the L's are lower than a lot of business. Like, you don't need to buy a $100,000 piece of equipment or warehouse or something. That's what I like about this, is the upside's so high and the downside's so
You're just paying for leads.
So
that's all we're doing is paying.
Yeah, you're just getting leads in, trying to get land under contract, but not like anything you do. If you're a one-shot quitter, is like what was just thinking when you're talking. It's one-shot quitters. Like, you take one shot, you miss, and you're out. But what happens when you take 10 shots? You're gonna make one of them. When you go hunting, like I think of hunting, and you go and you sit there and you stand for 7 hours and nothing comes by.
Yeah.
It's like, you do that one time, you maybe will get a kill your first time ever, but you're probably gonna have to go back time after time again, and eventually that deer or whatever elk will walk by and you'll get it. And that's what it's any business, anything you do in life, any hobby, any activity,
Yep.
you can't be a one-shot quitter.
Very few of our successful people who have learned from us or been worked with us have got a deal on their first mailer or their first marketing effort. Like there's always some kind of hurdle, no matter what it is. Maybe 10% of the people who are successful get a deal on their first mailer, their first campaign, whatever it is. And like if all 90 of those other people didn't try, like there's just very few successful people. But the people who are the most successful like have some hurdles all the time for sure.
Totally.
I think that's good. We can wrap it up.
Awesome, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. Leave us comments below your thoughts on this episode, any ideas for future episodes. Other than that, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for joining, guys.